Staff Sergeant Jack Cooper's breath came in ragged gasps as he dragged himself behind the shattered remains of forward operating base Echo 7. Each movement sent fresh waves of pain through his left leg, leaving a dark trail of blood across the moon's pale surface. The silence of space made every labored breath seem deafening inside his helmet. Through the spider-webbed crack in his visor, he watched pale starlight glint off the crystalline armor of the Kryvax warriors. They moved with an almost liquid grace, their elongated forms flowing between the debris of what had been humanity's most advanced outpost in the Carina sector. 12 of them, all that remained of their strike force after the base's automated defenses had extracted their pound of flesh. Cooper's HUD flickered weakly, power cells hovering at 12%. The blast that had taken out his squad had also fried most of his suit's systems. He could still see the bodies of Ramirez and Johnson where they'd fallen, their armor blackened by plasma fire. They'd never even seen the attack coming. Such fragile creatures. A voice resonated through his comm system, speaking perfect English with an unsettling harmonic undertone. We expected more from the species that claimed to have mastered faster than light travel. Cooper recognized the voice. The Kryvax commander who'd led the assault. The alien's towering form stepped into view, its crystalline armor shifting colors like oil on water. 4 arms held various weapons, all pointed at Cooper's position. With trembling hands that weren't entirely an act, Cooper ejected his rifle's spent magazine. The sound of it hitting the lunar surface seemed to amuse the Kryvax, their mandibles clicking in what passed for laughter among their kind. Primitive projectile weapons. The commander broadcast on all frequencies. Tell me, human, do you know why we chose to attack this outpost specifically? Cooper said nothing as he slammed his last magazine home. 8 rounds. He had 8 rounds left against 12 of the most elite alien warriors in known space. His fingers brushed against the neural interface at the base of his skull. Still functioning, still gathering data. The commander continued stalking forward, confident in his superiority. This sector houses your species' most advanced research facilities. Your governors insisted humans were ready to join the Galactic Defense Council, that you had technologies to rival the elder races. The aliens' outer arms spread wide in a gesture of mockery. Yet here you are, bleeding and broken, defended by nothing more than simple kinetic weapons and ceramic armor. Cooper's vision blurred as he shifted position, fresh blood seeping through the emergency seal on his leg. The Kryvax were getting closer, their sensor arrays probably telling them exactly how weak and vulnerable he was. Perfect. Your kind always did talk too much. Cooper managed through gritted teeth, making sure his voice wavered just enough. The comment earned another round of alien laughter. The commander stepped even closer, towering over Cooper's hunched form, defiant until the end. Perhaps we'll keep your corpse as a reminder to other emerging species. Not everyone is ready for the stars, little human. Cooper's neural interface pulsed once, confirming a completed scan. Behind his cracked visor, his lips curved into a slight smile. The Kryvax commander had just made 2 critical mistakes. He'd gotten too close, and he'd assumed Cooper was alone. As the alien raised its plasma caster for the killing shot, Cooper's fist clenched around his dog tags. The quantum transmitter hidden within them had everything it needed. A complete tactical analysis of the Kryvax force, their weapons signatures, armor vulnerabilities, and combat protocols. The signal was already racing through subspace, encoded in a burst transmission that the aliens' jamming systems would dismiss as background radiation. Cooper just had to survive the next few minutes. Had to keep them focused on him. Any last words, human? The commander asked, energy building in his weapon. Cooper looked up, letting them see his fear, his weakness, his helplessness. Everything they expected from a primitive human soldier. Yeah, he whispered. You really should have brought more troops. The Kryvax commander's laughter echoed across all frequencies, a discordant symphony that made Cooper's teeth ache. Behind his crystalline helm, 4 eyes glowed with predatory satisfaction as he addressed his unseen audience. Let all who monitor these channels witness the folly of humanity's ambition. The aliens' harmonics resonated through the comms. See how their champions fall, not with the dignity of warriors, but with the desperation of primitives who reached too far, too fast. Cooper's neural interface silently logged each frequency the commander used, each subtle shift in the alien's combat stance. The tremor in his hands wasn't entirely feigned now. The experimental combat stems were beginning their work, flooding his system with compounds that would have killed an unaugmented human. "Tell me, little soldier," the commander's secondary arms gestured dismissively at Cooper's bleeding form. "Did your leaders truly believe you could stand among the council races? That your handful of centuries of spaceflight could match species who were crossing galaxies when your kind still huddled in caves?" The other Kryvax warriors had formed a loose circle, their weapons trained on Cooper, but their postures relaxed. Overconfident, their sensor sweeps passed over him repeatedly, detecting only what they expected to find: depleted power cells, failing life support, and the erratic vital signs of a wounded human. None of them noticed the quantum processors woven through Cooper's neural tissue, analyzing every datum their scans revealed about their weapons, armor, and tactical protocols. "Funny thing about caves," Cooper wheezed, letting blood trickle from the corner of his mouth. The nanites in his bloodstream were already clotting the wound in his leg, but the Krygax didn't need to know that. "They teach you to respect the dark, to fear what might be hiding in it." The commander stepped closer, mandibles clicking in amusement. "Your species always did have a talent for metaphor. A pity it doesn't translate to martial prowess." He switched to a private channel with his squad. Sensor analysis confirms no other human life signs within 50 kilometers. The cowards abandoned him. Cooper's enhanced hearing caught every word. His neural interface tagged and categorized their encryption protocols, building a comprehensive tactical database with every passing second. Such a waste of resources, the commander broadcast again on all frequencies, playing to his audience. "This outpost, these weapons, this soldier. Did you know, human, that your leaders begged us to share our gravitic shield technology? Offered trade agreements that would have bankrupted your economies." Cooper's free hand inched toward the neural interface port at the base of his skull, movements disguised as spasms of pain. The quantum processor core was nearly finished with its analysis. Just a few more seconds. "But we are not without mercy," the commander continued, raising his primary weapon. "Your death will be quick, and your sacrifice will serve as a lesson to other young races who think themselves ready for the stars." A warning flashed across Cooper's HUD. His suit's power cells were truly depleted now. The emergency backup would keep him breathing for another hour at most. Not that he'd need it that long. "Any final declarations for your species, human? Any last claims of technological achievement to share with the galaxy?" Cooper's neural interface pulsed once, twice, 3 times. Analysis complete. Transmission prepared. His hands had stopped shaking now as the combat stems reached their full potency, hydrogen peroxide compounds supercharging his blood cells. "Just one thing," Cooper said, his voice steady despite his apparent wounds. "You really should have checked what all those sensor sweeps were giving away." The commander's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Giving away? Your primitive armor can barely." "You know what humans did in those caves you mentioned?" Cooper interrupted, feeling the first tremors through the lunar surface. "Right on schedule. We learned to turn every predator's strength against it. Learned that the proud ones, the arrogant ones, never look up until it's too late." The quantum burst had already gone out, hidden in the background radiation of space. Cooper's smile widened as the first sonic booms began to pierce the thin lunar atmosphere. "And we got real good at calling for help." The first sonic boom shattered the lunar silence like a hammer striking crystal. The Kryvax commander's head snapped upward, all 4 eyes widening as his sensor arrays registered multiple objects breaking atmosphere at terminal velocity. "Impossible," he snarled, switching rapidly through communication frequencies. "Our jamming field is absolute. No signal could have." Quantum entanglement's a bitch, isn't it? Cooper's voice had lost its tremor, replaced by cold professionalism. Did your intelligence reports mention that? Or did you just assume we were still using radio waves and laser relays? The commander's crystalline armor shifted from iridescent blue to angry red. Kill him. Now. 4 Kryvax warriors opened fire simultaneously, their plasma casters painting the lunar surface with superheated death. But Cooper was already moving, his supposedly depleted armor flowing like liquid metal as dormant systems roared to life. Nanite fabricators, powered by the very energy weapons being fired at him, began reconstructing his damaged suit in real time. Full tactical analysis complete. A calm voice echoed in Cooper's mind as his neural interface processed the combat data. Kryvax armor weakest at joint segments. Crystalline matrix vulnerable to specific harmonic frequencies. Uploading targeting solutions now. Cooper's primitive rifle snapped up, the smart-linked scope adjusting automatically. The weapon's internal fabricators had already modified his remaining rounds, transforming standard ammunition into something far more lethal. His first shot caught a Kryvax warrior in the knee joint, the specialized round shattering the alien's crystalline armor like glass, hitting exactly the right frequency. Command, this is Cooper, he subvocalized through the quantum link. Package delivered. Requesting status on reinforcement drop. Package received. Staff Sergeant, came the immediate reply. 82nd Orbital is deploying now. Additional forces inbound via micro-wormhole. Your performance has been exemplary. The Kryvax combat data you've collected will be invaluable. Above, the first drop pods pierced the thin lunar atmosphere. But these weren't the crude metal shells the Kryvax expected. Instead, quantum fields wrapped around each pod, bending gravity itself to slow their descent. The aliens' superior sensors tried desperately to get a lock, only to find their targeting systems crashed by viral code hidden in their earlier scans of Cooper's primitive equipment. All units, be advised, Cooper broadcast on the Kryvax's own encrypted channel, enjoying their visible shock at the intrusion. Target area is hot. Quantum analysis indicates crystalline armor responds to harmonic disruption, adjusting all weapons accordingly. The commander raised all 4 arms, energy weapons charging. What are you? Cooper's damaged visor retracted, revealing a smile that held no warmth. We're what happens when you push a warrior species to the edge of extinction. We're what evolves when you force humans to adapt or die. His rifle barked again, the round piercing the commander's primary weapon and causing it to overload. We're what you get when you mistake patience for weakness. The drop pods struck with precision, their quantum fields creating localized gravity wells that sent the unprepared Kryvax tumbling across the lunar surface. As they opened, Cooper's HUD tagged each emerging figure. Gravity's angels, humanity's elite orbital insertion specialists. Their armor made Cooper's look primitive by comparison. Each suit a self-contained weapon system powered by miniaturized zero-point energy cells. Sector secure in 30 seconds, one of the angels reported, her voice calm as her suit's weapon systems engage. Micro-wormhole apertures forming now. The Kryvax commander struggled to his feet, his remaining weapons trying to target multiple threats at once. This changes nothing. We are the elite off. You're yesterday's warriors. Cooper cut him off, ejecting his spent magazine. A fresh one, fabricated from lunar regolith by his suit's nanites, slammed home. And you just gave humanity everything we needed to upgrade our combat protocols. Again. Space itself began to tear open around them as the micro-wormholes stabilized, disgorging more human forces. Cooper's neural interface typed them all. Quantum infiltrators, nanite commandos, and the infamous Ghost Division. Each unit specialized in taking down supposedly superior alien forces. The commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of fear. Cooper's tactical database helpfully supplied. What are you going to do? Cooper chambered around. We're going to teach you why humans don't just survive. We evolve. The gravity's angels hit the ground running, their quantum-enhanced armor adapting instantly to the lunar gravity. Each soldier moved with liquid precision, decades of combined combat experience flowing through their neural networks. They didn't just fight as individuals, they fought as a single devastating organism. Multiple hostile signatures. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes of the 82nd Orbital broadcast through the tactical net, accessing threat analysis from Cooper's data package, implementing countermeasures now. Cooper watched in satisfaction as the Angel's weapon systems reconfigured on the fly, matching the exact frequencies his neural interface had identified as devastating to Kryvak's crystal armor. The aliens had thought themselves invulnerable in their crystalline suits. They were about to learn otherwise. Impossible. The Kryvak's commander bellowed, all four arms brandishing weapons. Your species lacks the technological sophistication for. His words cut off as Hayes' phase shifted through his plasma burst, her armor's quantum field bending space itself around her. She emerged behind him, her monomolecular blade finding the exact spot Cooper's analysis had identified as a critical weakness. You know what your biggest mistake was? Hayes asked as the commander's secondary arms went limp, neural pathways severed. You assumed that because we didn't show our capabilities, we didn't have them. The remaining Kryvak's warriors formed a defensive circle, their formation perfect and perfectly predictable, thanks to Cooper's tactical analysis. Their crystal armor hummed as they activated emergency protocols, energy fields intensifying. All units, Cooper broadcast, his neural interface synchronizing with the Angel's tactical network. Pattern Sigma 7. Let's show them why humanity's combat doctrine is feared across 3 spiral arms. The Angels moved like ghosts, their quantum fields disrupting the very light around them. Each step was calculated to exploit the Kryvak's blind spots they hadn't even known they had until Cooper's scans revealed them. Plasma bursts hit empty air as the humans seemed to anticipate every shot before it was fired. Secondary wave incoming, Hayes announced as space rippled behind her. Micro-wormholes stabilized. The Kryvak's commander, now struggling with his partially paralyzed armor, watched in horror as more human forces emerged from tears in reality. These weren't just soldiers, they were humanity's answer to every alien force that had ever threatened Earth. Quantum infiltrators stepped through subatomic spaces, their very existence seeming to flicker between dimensions. Nanite commandos moved as living swarms, their bodies breaking down and reforming at will. And then came the Ghost Division, their hybrid organic-synthetic forms a testament to how far humans would go to survive. Full tactical engagement authorized, Cooper commanded, his rifle acquiring multiple targets as his neural upgrades processed combat data in microseconds. Show them what humanity's been keeping in reserve. The battle that followed wasn't just a fight, it was a demonstration. Every shot fired by the Angels found its mark. Every quantum shift by the infiltrators disrupted Kryvak's communications. Every nanite swarm from the commandos invaded and corrupted alien systems. Your species, the commander gasped as his armor systems failed one by one. You were supposed to be primitive, new to the stars. Hayes landed beside Cooper, her armor reconfiguring to match the lunar terrain. We learned early on that it's better to be underestimated. Every time you superior species attacked us, we didn't just fight back. We adapted. We evolved. We turned your own technologies against you. Cooper's neural interface pinged as the last Kryvak's warrior fell, their crystalline armor shattered by precisely calibrated harmonic weapons. The entire battle had lasted less than 2 minutes. Sector secure, Hayes reported. All hostile forces neutralized or contained. Minimal damage to human assets. Cooper approached the commander, who now knelt in the lunar dust, his once pristine armor cracked and dulled. Remember this moment, Cooper said, his voice carrying through all frequencies. Remember that humans didn't just survive your attack. We used it to become stronger. The commander's mandibles clicked weakly. What happens now? Cooper's HUD lit up with new signals as even more human forces emerged from micro-wormholes, securing the area and beginning repairs to the base. Now you get to explain to your superiors how a single primitive human soldier and his friends took down the most elite Kryvax fighting force in the quadrant." He smiled beneath his visor. "And trust me, this is just the beginning." The lunar surface had become a testament to humanity's hidden strength. Quantum fields rippled through the thin atmosphere as more specialized units secured the perimeter, their movements a deadly ballet of efficiency. Cooper watched through enhanced vision as nanite commandos began dissolving fallen Kryvax armor, breaking down the crystalline structures for analysis. "Interesting design flaw in their command protocols," Hayes noted, her armor's sensors conducting deep scans of the battlefield. They never considered that their own tactical network could be compromised, almost like they'd never faced an enemy capable of it before. Cooper's neural interface pinged as it completed its final analysis of the Kryvax combat data. That's because they hadn't. Most species try to match them technologically. We went a different route. The commander, still kneeling in the dust, watched with all four eyes as his elite unit's most closely guarded secrets were dissected and catalogued by what he'd dismissed as primitive humans. His mandibles clicked in a pattern Cooper's tactical database now identified as expressing deep distress. "Your weapons," the alien finally spoke. "They weren't just modified to counter our armor. They were designed for it. You knew exactly what you'd be facing." "Wrong." Cooper knelt before the commander, his armor's nanites still actively repairing the last of his wounds. "We designed systems that could analyze, adapt, and overcome any opponent. You weren't special. You were just another test case." A Ghost Division operative materialized beside them, her form shifting between solid and ethereal states. "Staff Sergeant Cooper. Initial analysis of their tactical data is complete. You'll want to see this." The data streamed directly into Cooper's neural interface. Complete schematics of Kryvax military technology, their strategic doctrines, their battlefield algorithms, all extracted during those brief moments when they'd thought him helpless and dying. "Interesting," he vocalized to the tactical net. "Their entire military doctrine is based on technological superiority. They never developed countermeasures for species that might hide their true capabilities." Hayes moved to secure a perimeter, her angels spreading out in a pattern that seemed random, but was actually optimized by quantum calculations. Makes sense. Hard to plan for what you don't know exists. The commander's crystalline armor, once a shifting rainbow of colors, had dulled to a lifeless gray. "How long?" he demanded. "How long has your species possessed these capabilities?" Cooper smiled beneath his visor. "That's the wrong question. You should be asking why we kept them hidden." He stood, his armor now fully repaired, the nanites having reconstructed it into an even more efficient configuration based on analysis of the battle. "Lieutenant Hayes, show our friend the satellite feed." A holographic display materialized between them, showing orbital views of similar scenes playing out across 3 sectors. In each one, Kryvax forces found themselves outmaneuvered and overwhelmed by human forces they'd never known existed. This wasn't just about defending one base, Cooper explained as the commander's posture slumped in recognition. This was about letting you think you had the upper hand, about gathering combat data from your best units, about learning everything there is to know about fighting your species. "Coordinated strikes," the commander whispered. "This was all planned. You used me, used my pride, to upgrade our entire combat doctrine." Cooper finished. "Yeah, like I said, humans don't just survive. We evolve. Every attack against us makes us stronger. Every species that underestimates us becomes another entry in our tactical database." The Ghost Division operative shifted fully into phase, her voice echoing strangely. "All Kryvax tactical data has been uploaded to Central Command. Combat algorithms are being updated across all human forces. Estimated military effectiveness against crystalline-based technologies has increased by 300%. Cooper's neural interface displayed the compiled data, a complete breakdown of Kryvax military capabilities, weaknesses, and potential countermeasures. all gathered because one alien force had been too proud to consider that their primitive opponent might be more than they appeared. "Your species," the commander said quietly. "What are you really?" Cooper looked across the battlefield, where human forces continued to evolve and adapt with every piece of data gathered. "We're what happens when you push a species too far. We're what you get when you force evolution to take sides." He checked his rifle, now modified far beyond its original specifications by combat-adapted nanites, and we're just getting started. The micro-wormholes pulsed with increasing frequency as humanity's full military response took shape. Each new arrival brought specialized units Cooper's neural interface, tagged with classifications that would have seemed impossible hours ago. Quantum breach teams, neural override specialists, and the infamous Lazarus Squad. Soldiers who died and been reconstructed so many times that death itself had become merely an inconvenience. "Central Command is deploying Phase 2, Hayes announced, her armor reconfiguring for the next stage of operations. "All units prepare for tactical expansion." The Kryvax commander's mandibles clicked rapidly as he watched more human forces emerge. "Phase 2. This wasn't your full deployment." Cooper checked his weapon, now barely recognizable from its original form. Combat-evolved nanites had reconstructed it into something that looked more like a piece of abstract art than a rifle. "You thought this was about defending one base. Lieutenant, show him what's happening in high orbit." Hayes gestured, and a holographic display materialized, showing the space above them. The Kryvax command ship, once proud and imperious in its crystalline glory, was now surrounded by vessels that seemed to fade in and out of reality. Humanity's ghost fleet, ships that existed partially in quantum space, impossible to target effectively. "Your ships," the commander breathed. Their phase shifted. "The energy readings, they're identical to your infantry systems. We learned early on that specialization was death," Cooper explained, watching as human vessels executed maneuvers that should have been impossible. "Every weapon, every ship, every soldier in the human military can adapt and evolve during combat. What you're seeing isn't our technology. It's our technology learning from yours in real time." A Lazarus Squad member approached, her armor bearing the scars of 1,000 deaths. "Sir, we've completed analysis of their ship-to-shore tactical protocols. Their entire fleet's running on the same crystalline computing architecture. They're vulnerable." Cooper's neural interface processed this information, sharing it instantly across the human tactical network. Every soldier, every ship, every weapon system began adapting simultaneously. The Kryvax weren't just facing an army. They were facing an entire military that could evolve faster than they could react. "Begin the demonstration," Cooper ordered. Above them, human ships began executing impossible maneuvers, their quantum drives allowing them to exist in multiple positions simultaneously. The Kryvax fleet's targeting systems, designed to track conventional vessels, failed completely against enemies that refused to obey normal laws of physics. "Impossible," the commander whispered as his mighty fleet found itself outmaneuvered by ships that shouldn't exist. "Your species, you were barely achieving fusion power when we first encountered you." Hayes laughed, the sound carrying an edge of steel. "You really think we showed you everything? That we'd reveal our true capabilities to a galaxy that had already tried to wipe us out twice?" On the lunar surface, the battle had transformed into something more akin to a training exercise. Human forces moved with perfect coordination, each unit's combat data feeding into a shared tactical network that grew more efficient with every passing second. The remaining Kryvax warriors found themselves engaged by enemies that seemed to know their moves before they made them. "Your combat algorithms," the commander realized, watching his troops fall to precisely calculated attacks. "They're not just adapting to our current tactics, they're predicting our responses." Cooper nodded, his rifle shifting configuration again as it incorporated new data. Human neural networks, quantum computing, and combat-evolved AI, working in perfect sync. We turned warfare itself into a tool for evolution. A massive explosion lit up the lunar sky as the first Kryvax ship, succumbed to the Ghost Fleet's assault. The crystalline vessel shattered into a million glittering shards, each one captured by human sensor arrays for further analysis. Central Command reports total tactical supremacy in all engaged sectors, Hayes announced. The Kryvax fleet is completely contained. Cooper turned to the commander, whose proud bearing had given way to something approaching awe. Remember what I said about caves teaching us to fear what hides in the dark? Your people just found out what humanity's been hiding, and we're not done evolving yet. The commander looked up at the battle above, where his mighty fleet was being systematically dismantled by ships that danced through quantum space. What happens now? Now, Cooper smiled beneath his visor. Now we show the galaxy why underestimating humanity was their biggest mistake. The quantum space readings above the lunar surface painted a devastating picture of Kryvax's defeat. Their once proud fleet hung motionless, crystalline hulls dulled and weapons powerless. Cooper's neural interface processed the final battle statistics. 17 Kryvax capital ships neutralized, their vaunted technology rendered obsolete by humanity's evolved combat systems. Final analysis complete, Hayes reported, her armor now incorporating elements of captured Kryvax technology. Their entire military doctrine was based on a single flawed assumption, that technological superiority equals tactical supremacy. The commander, still kneeling in the lunar dust, watched as quantum breach teams systematically downloaded and decoded centuries of Kryvax military secrets from the captured vessels. Each new piece of data fed into humanity's ever-evolving combat networks, making them stronger, more adaptive. You have to understand, the commander spoke, his voice carrying the weight of revelation. We were the apex predators of 5 spiral arms. Our crystalline technology was unmatched. Entire species surrendered at the mere sight of our fleet. Cooper knelt before him, his armor's surfaces rippling as nanites incorporated new improvements. That was your fundamental mistake. You thought being the apex predator meant you'd stopped evolving. Humans, we never stop. A Lazarus squad member materialized beside them, her armor bearing fresh scars from quantum space exposure. Sir, we've detected encrypted transmissions from the Kryvax homeworld. They're mobilizing their entire defense fleet. Good, Cooper smiled, checking the tactical displays streaming through his neural interface. That means they haven't learned their lesson yet. Lieutenant Hayes, show them what we found in their command ship's database. Hayes gestured and holographic displays blazed to life around them. They showed detailed scans of Kryvax space. Patrol routes, fleet positions, defensive installations, all downloaded during the brief battle in lunar orbit. Your arrogance, Cooper explained to the stunned commander, made you sloppy. Your ships broadcast tactical data constantly, assuming no lesser species could decode your crystalline quantum networks. But humans? We've been reading your mail since first contact. The commander's mandibles clicked in patterns of increasing distress as he realized the full implications. The trade negotiations, the technology exchanges, your apparent primitive status, all carefully crafted deception, Hayes confirmed. Every time you denied us access to advanced technology, we adapted. Every time you dismissed us as primitive, we evolved. And now, above them, the Ghost Fleet shifted fully into quantum space, becoming invisible to conventional sensors. The captured Kryvax ships, their systems now fully integrated into human combat networks, began transmitting false, all-clear signals toward their homeworld. Now we have everything, Cooper stated. Your tactical databases, your fleet positions, your defensive protocols. More importantly, we know how your species thinks, how you fight, how you react when faced with superior force. The commander's crystalline armor, once a symbol of Kryvax superiority, now seemed dull and primitive compared to the constantly evolving human battle suits. You were never trapped here with us, he realized. We were trapped here with you. Incoming transmission from Central Command, Hayes announced. The Kryvax defense fleet has deployed. They're moving to engage our forces in the Carina sector. Cooper stood, his rifle reconfiguring yet again as combat algorithms predicted the coming engagement. They still think they're fighting a primitive species that got lucky, that this was an isolated incident. He checked his tactical displays, watching as human forces shifted into predetermined positions across 5 sectors. They haven't realized that every battle makes us stronger. Every engagement improves our combat evolution algorithms. "What are you?" the commander asked, fear and awe mixing in his harmonic voice. Cooper's answer was cut off by new alerts flashing across their tactical networks. The Kryvax defense fleet had just emerged from hyperspace, directly into the killing zones humanity had prepared. "We're what happens when you push a species to adapt or die," Cooper replied, watching as the space battle unfolded exactly as their combat algorithms had predicted. "We're what evolution created when the galaxy tried to keep us down." He turned to Hayes as the first reports of Kryvax fleet engagement came in. "Ready for the final phase?" Hayes nodded, her armor shifting into full combat configuration. "Time to show them why humanity doesn't just survive. We conquer." The final battle for Kryvax supremacy lasted exactly 8 minutes and 17 seconds. Cooper watched through quantum-enhanced vision as the mighty defense fleet, pride of an empire spanning 5 spiral arms, discovered what it meant to face humanity at its full potential. Human ships phased through their strongest shields, weapons adapted to exploit weaknesses the Kryvax never knew they had. Each engagement fed more data into the combat evolution networks, making every subsequent attack more devastating than the last. "Tactical analysis confirms total spectrum dominance," Hayes reported, her armor incorporating the last fragments of captured Kryvax technology. "Their entire command and control structure has been compromised. The defense fleet is going dark." The commander, who had watched his civilization's military might crumble in minutes, finally understood. This wasn't just about defeating us, was it? This was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. Cooper nodded, his neural interface processing the final battle data. "Every species that tried to keep humanity down taught us something valuable. The Drachnid taught us to hide our true capabilities. The Swarm taught us the power of adaptive technology. And you?" He gestured to the crystalline wreckage scattered across lunar surface. "You taught us the weakness of pride." Space itself seemed to ripple as the ghost fleet emerged from quantum phase, surrounding the remains of the Kryvax armada. On every frequency, across every channel the aliens had fought secure. Humanity broadcast its victory. "Sir," a Lazarus squad member reported, her form flickering between dimensions, "we're detecting surrender signals from 97% of remaining Kryvax vessels. Their high command is requesting terms." Hayes laughed, the sound carrying both triumph and warning. "They still think this is a negotiation. Show them the final phase." Cooper's neural interface activated a special quantum channel, broadcasting directly to every Kryvax ship and installation across 5 sectors. The message was simple, a complete technical breakdown of how humanity had defeated them, along with a demonstration of capabilities they hadn't even needed to use. "You see," Cooper explained to the commander as the alien watched his species' greatest secrets dissected and analyzed, "humans don't just win battles. We learn from them. Every tactic you used, every technology you relied on, has already been incorporated into our combat doctrine." The commander's mandibles clicked in a pattern that the tactical database now identified as profound revelation. "Your species, you're not just warriors. You're living weapons, constantly evolving, constantly adapting." "Look up," Cooper suggested. Above them, the lunar sky filled with new signatures as humanity's full military potential revealed itself. Ships emerged from quantum space, each one incorporating technologies the galaxy had thought impossible to combine. Ground forces equipped with evolved versions of captured alien tech materialized across the surface. "This," Cooper gestured to the overwhelming display of force, "is humanity unchained. Every defeat made us stronger. Every species that tried to keep us down became another stepping stone in our evolution." Hayes's armor shifted, incorporating the final adaptations from the battle. Central Command confirms the Kryvax High Command has surrendered unconditionally. Their embassy is requesting emergency communion with the Human Adaptive Council. The commander looked at Cooper with all four eyes. What happens to my people now? Cooper's response carried both promise and warning. That depends on what you've learned today. Humanity doesn't seek conquest. We seek evolution. Your species can either adapt alongside us or... He left the threat unspoken as human forces continued to demonstrate their overwhelming technological supremacy. A message from Fleet Command, Hayes announced. They're making the tactical data public. Every species in the galaxy will know what happened here today. Cooper nodded, his armor rippling one final time as combat algorithms compiled the last battle data. Let them know. Let them all know what happens when you underestimate humanity. We're not just another species reaching for the stars. He turned to the commander, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of human adaptation and evolution. We're what happens when you force a species to become something more. Remember that the next time you think about challenging humanity. Above them, the Ghost Fleet began securing the sector, their quantum-shifted forms a reminder of how far humanity had come, and how far they could still evolve. After all, Cooper concluded, watching as the galaxy's balance of power shifted forever, we're just getting started.